Feliz quarantine, friends. How's it going? I think I'm on quarantine day 13, but now all the days are running together and does it really matter anymore? We'll get back to social connectedness whenever our leaders say we can, and until then, we'll make the most of what we've got, I guess. And what I'm down to now is less than one sleeve of saltines. Oh no! But I'm looking forward to this too. I still have some snacks from Mexico. Healthy and delicious. Hey, did you know a baby is born in the United States every 8 seconds? That's pretty wonderful, isn't it? There is still a greater rate of new life than life that's passing away. That equates to 7.5 babies per minute, or about 30 to 40 in the time that it takes for me to share this. 450 per hour and 10,800 per day. So, roughly equivalent number of babies born each day to the number of deaths that have taken place in the entire duration of this coronavirus in the United States. Thought that might shine a little bit of a hopeful light on things. Let's not look in one direction only. Let's be circumspect, trying to understand the fullness of everything that's going on. So, remember your life giver. And yes, death is part of our lot here on Earth. We're not meant to live on a planet that fails to see God perfectly, that has decay as part of its process, that has distraction as part of the norm. We're meant to be in a place where we see God fully for who He is. He's created you and destined you to be in His perfect presence and to enjoy Him in this perfect state forever. We know that's not on Earth. Now, David Hume wrote a treatise against miracles. He said that a miracle is always less likely than an alternative explanation, such as the person lied or they're mistaken or deceived. And relate that to the resurrection. What do you get? You get this bias, this presupposition from skeptics that the resurrection could not have occurred because the rarity and unlikelihood of that event always makes it more likely that the stories were fabricated in some way. But how does he know what's likely or unlikely when you have God in the equation? He has ruled out miracles because God does not exist, and he determines that God does not exist because he's ruled out miracles, and goes around and around in that circle. But once you have a personal, intelligent, intentional agent in the picture, the odds of something like that are thrown out the window. What are the odds that I have a line of 100 dice and they're all turned to number 1? Well, naturalistically, if they're all thrown out at random, those odds are, I don't know the number, 10 to the 31st power maybe, to use a number from last week. But if there's an intelligent, intentional agent turning all the dice to that number, well, what are the odds? Whatever the intention of the person was. So if God is in the equation, what are the odds of the resurrection occurring? We have no idea. 100% if that's what he intended to do. So what we need to do is take a different angle on the evidence for the resurrection than just saying, well, things like that can't happen, therefore it didn't happen, and we know that things like that don't happen because God does not exist, and we know God does not exist because things like that don't happen. No, I'm sorry. I'm not going to buy into that circular reasoning, especially when it denies the fact that non-naturalistic things are happening all the time. I mentioned the birth every 8 seconds. That is new life being created. What about free will and free thought? If you're actually having free will and free thought that can override what your naturalistic tendency is to do, there's, in a sense, miracles happening all the time in your choices and in your consciousness. But Hume will fail to recognize this, and he'll trump it up to naturalistic causes, in which case he would be denying his freedom to call it a naturalistic cause and would have to say that his saying so is only process of nature. Therefore, why would it be true? Okay, that's my little philosophical diatribe for the moment, but consider this question. What if it was the death of Jesus only and not the resurrection? Would our sins be forgiven? Would they be atoned for at the cross? Maybe. But that doesn't mean we would spend eternity with him. Would God show his great love for us in this death of Christ? I guess. But that doesn't mean that that love would bind us to him forever. Consider that difference. Consider the importance of the resurrection. And maybe one place to go is Luke chapter 24, where Jesus is walking with two guys on the road to Emmaus. And these guys on the road are distraught because they thought maybe this Jesus was the one who came to redeem Israel, the Messiah, the life giver. But he was now crucified and dead. So they had no hope that Jesus was who he claimed to be, that he was somehow the fulfillment of God's intention for bringing people back to him. So apparently, to these guys, without the resurrection, the death didn't really mean much. So this week, my goal is to look deeply into the resurrection, look into the evidence for the resurrection, and present a nice, convincing cumulative case for the fact of the most significant biblical event, and maybe the most significant event in human history, the resurrection of Jesus. Stay tuned for that, and enjoy the rest of your social isolation. We got a long way to go, don't we? But we'll find a good routine. God bless. Talk to you soon.